Hello, and welcome back to another Game of Thrones Season 1 breakdown. Hope you're in the mood for some more tasty Game of Thrones breakdownage, because today we're breaking down Episode 6, A Golden Crown. Last one was The Wolf and the Lion, so a whole bunch of shit happened. We had Varys finally talking to Ned. We had the conflict between Ned and Robert finally boil over to the point where Ned quit his hand. Catelyn reached the Eyrie, so now we're getting ready for Tyrion's trial. Had this amazing conversation between Robert and Cersei. And of course it ended with Ned going to the brothel and finding himself a black-haired bastard baby. Just like Gendry, he's been getting hints throughout the season. We're going to see all that kind of reach a conclusion in this episode. He's finally going to figure it out, but he gets confronted by Jaime, his men get killed. He gets skewered through the leg, and Jaime flees the city. Now that everybody's memories have been good and jogged, let's hop right into the episode.
Do you know what your wife has done?
She did nothing I did not command.
Who'd have thought she had it in her?
Ned continues to take responsibility for Catelyn abducting Tyrion, but I love that Robert knows right away it's bullshit. He knows that Ned wouldn't have commanded that. He certainly wouldn't have done it without giving Robert any warning. And that's why he says, he just says, who'd have thought she had it in her.
Catelyn will release Tyrion, and you'll make your peace with Jaime.
And Robert's response is to kind of maintain the status quo. He's had some time to think about what's happened since Ned tried to quit. And I think he is still trying to peacefully resolve this so that he can keep the marriage between Joffrey and Sansa intact. And he tells Ned to make his peace with Jaime, and Ned kind of refuses him. He says he butchered my men, meaning that Ned thinks that what Jaime did was a crime and dishonorable, and that making peace with Jaime would be, kind of condoning that act. So Ned doesn't want peace. He wants justice.
Lord Stark was returning drunk from a brothel when his men attacked Jaime.
Quiet, woman.
Jaime.
So Cersei obviously lying her ass off, and Robert knows it. And Robert's rebuttal, in part, I appreciate it, because he's just like, shut the fuck up. But he throws in a tinge of sexism. He says, quiet, woman.
Jaime has fled the city. Give me leave to bring him back to justice.
I will say, I don't know how the fuck Ned knows that. He literally just woke up. Yeah, he saw Jaime ride away on a horse, but I don't know how he concluded that he fled the city. I mean, it's a fair assumption to make, but he announces it like he knows it. It should almost be the other way around.
He's attacked one of my brothers and abducted the other. I should wear the armor and you the gown.
You see Robert kind of weaponize her sex against her, the quiet woman comment, and then Cersei weaponizes the sexism kind of right back at him. She uses the idea that Robert's acting like a woman as an insult, and that unseats him so much that he fucking... And I love that we show just Ned's reaction. You can tell he's shocked and he's really bothered by it. Definitely one of the more yikesy moments from Robert, aside from ordering a mother and her child be killed. That was a serious fucking hit too. And I'll just, for a comment, made.
She'll wear this like a badge of honor.
And that's a pretty respectable response to being slapped in the face by your gargantuan husband and king. Especially for just a snide comment. And as much as Cersei is definitely hurt, I think psychologically, by the fact that she has to endure this from someone that she's married to, I think she is, as she says, proud. I think she's happy that she got under Robert's skin so easily, especially when she's probably endured comments like that her entire life. That's probably vindication that deep down, she's more, according to the Westerosi standard, she would be even more man than he is.
Wear it in silence, or I'll honor you again.
And Robert does not let her have her moment of victory for very long, as has been most of their marriage. He's just kind of I don't give a shit. And you can see it kind of deflates her. The fact that she's happy about getting hit, how even that doesn't have an effect on him. And she ultimately decides to leave because she realizes in that moment that she's powerless. Nothing she says to Robert is going to help her or her brother.
See what she does to me, my loving wife.
And Robert doubles down, which is unfortunate. You hate to see it. Blaming the person you just smacked across the face for you smacking them across the face. Not very cool. Fortunately, we get just a little glimmer of redemption. At the very least, Robert realizes he shouldn't have done it.
I should not have hit her. That was not kingly.
And yeah, he realizes the error, and I like that it kind of adds to, he's drinking right away too. Kind of adds to his depression and his feelings of unworthiness and how he kind of knows he's a fraud and he's a bad king. He doesn't say like, oh, it was wrong. He says it wasn't kingly, like it was unbecoming of him.
If we don't act, there will be a war.
So tell your wife to return that little shit of an imp to King's Landing.
What about Jamie?
I'm half a kingdom in debt to his bloody father. I can't rule the kingdoms if the Starks and the Lannisters are at each other's throats. So enough.
He really wants Jamie to answer for killing his men. But Robert is a lot more pragmatic. He's having to consider what actually happens if he tries to hold Jamie accountable, and he knows that Tywin's not going to let that slide. So Robert tries his absolute best to say, fuck off, you guys have to stop fighting. It's not just bad for the realm, but that kind of ruins Robert's plans of trying to unite his house with Ned's. Because he's already so entangled with the Lannisters, he has to find a way for those two to coexist.
I will return to Winterfell and set matters straight.
Piss on that. Send a raven. I want you to stay.
And it's pretty interesting, because if you think about it, Jaime could return to court, Catelyn could release Tyrion, and there wouldn't really be much room for future conflict if Ned did go back to Winterfell. They could just cancel the whole marriage proposal thing and just kind of reset, go back to the way things were in like episode 1. Just get the Lannisters and the Starks nice and far away from each other. But Robert, he's not having that because, again, what Robert really cares about is keeping Ned around, and he basically admits it.
I want you to stay. I'm the king. I get what I want. I never loved my brothers. Sad thing for a man to admit, but it's true.
And this goes back to what I said in the Wolf and the Lion video. Robert really has, like, nobody in his life that he truly loves. For the entirety of his life, it's really just been Jon Arryn and Ned Stark. Jon was his fake dad, and Ned was his fake brother. Sorry, fake sounds derogatory, but they were the... Actually, you know what? Robert words it pretty well.
You were the brother I chose.
And yeah, Robert was orphaned. He didn't connect with his blood relatives. So Ned and Jon were his found family.
We'll talk when I return from the hunt. You'll have to sit on the throne while I'm away. You'll hate it more than I do.
The Targaryen girl.
Don't start with her again.
It is a bummer that we literally never get to see Robert on the throne. I would have loved to see just one scene. It does emphasize pretty well his negligence overall. But goddammit, I do want that scene. I wish we got it. I'm picturing like a scene like that scene in House of the Dragon season 2, where you have like the commoners coming before the throne and making requests. I would really like to see what Robert does when he's in that spot. I wonder how much of this is just, Dany, kind of fucking around, just putting the eggs in the fire, because wouldn't it be neat if they did hatch? I don't know how much of this is really divine so much as it's kind of just Dany's character coming through. Just the idea that as much as she's adjusted to this new life, she still wants much better for herself and other people in general. It's kind of the funny trick of George referring to the Targaryens' visions as dreams, kind of treating them as interchangeable, like you never really know what is an actual like prophetic vision versus what is just your heart telling you what you want to believe is going to happen. But yeah, she puts it in the fire, she lets it cook for a little bit, she goes to pick it back up, and one of her servants sees her pick it up, and she freaks out because she's like, oh god, Dany, you're going to burn yourself.
Khaleesi? Oh, Khaleesi!
Shows how loyal the handmaiden is. Irri, I'm pretty sure is her name, but she pulls the egg right out of Dany's hands and immediately checks on her. No, what a homie. I'm not sure what the girl equivalent is for homie, but she's a homie. And we see that Dany is untouched, alluding to her fireproof powers. which is a pretty good thing to combo in a scene where we're alluding heavily to her hatching her dragons, since in the show her permanent fireproofness is kind of part of that ritual. And it's also cool that we show that she immediately is like, oh, you're hurt. Like, once the shock wears off, she realizes that her handmaiden has been injured, and then that's what she cares about. And that's cool too, because it shows you that she's a compassionate ruler. She's just as eager to tend to the needs of her handmaidens as they are to tend to her needs. So yeah, a very tiny scene, but pretty neat. Got another spooky-ass raven dream with Bran. And it's mostly the exact same as the previous one. It's just cut up a bit faster, except for this one shot where we get to see the raven actually flying into the crypts, as if it's trying to lead Bran further into this dark and mysterious path that he's going to be headed down. And it transitions to Hodor giving him a little jump scare. And hey, it's the saddle that Tyrion designed. It's ready for Bran to give it a go, and he's so excited because he's like, finally, I can get out of this bed and fucking move. I don't need to be carried around by Hodor. I can get on a horse. That's awesome. So yeah, very, very quickly pulling away from the dark, spooky mystery part, because Bran's got we got some more time to kill before we get to that part. But it seems his dreams are not going away. He's having the same one, and he's getting a bit more each time.
Not too fast.
When are you going to tell him?
Not now.
Blood for blood. You need to make the Lannisters pay for Jory and the others.
You're talking about war.
I'm talking about justice.
Robert has received the news that his dad has been skewered in the leg, and that Jaime butchered his men and then fled the city. And now Theon's talking about needing to get justice, kind of this idea that a lot of Westerosi have that is not at all unfounded, but the idea that it's a really good deterrent to just let people know, like, hey, if you fuck with me, I'm gonna fuck with you right back. Like, if you brutally murder someone from our house, we're going to brutally murder someone from your house. Because in a world like this, that is one of the best ways to ensure that people don't fuck with you and your loved ones. But Robert is also, he's being a bit more Ned-like. He's trying to think more for the future. You can't always repay blood with blood, because there are times where there's an opportunity to peacefully de-escalate. And typically for the just advancement of any society, it's usually better if you can resolve issues without having to kill anybody. But yeah, we see it makes sense for Theon to have that mindset. This is actually a pretty good setup for the way he thinks in general. Theon does very much buy into that might makes right, and that need to project strength to defend yourself very much feeds into how he handles his insecurities in general. So that makes sense coming from him, and it makes sense that Robb is kind of regurgitating what he's learned from his father.
They attacked your father. They've already started the war. It's your duty to represent your house when your father can't.
So Robb's about to drop a haymaker, and I know a lot of people give him shit for it because it's a bit uncalled for, and it's also like touching on one of Theon's biggest like insecurities. But Robb's under a lot of pressure. Theon is just heaping even more onto him, and he isn't being exactly polite. I mean, the obvious implication of telling Robb he's not a boy anymore means that he's being childish or immature or naive. He's not really respecting Robb's like concerns about escalating the situation further. And then he says it's your duty to represent your house when your father can't. The implication there being like, if you don't do what I'm suggesting, then you're not even doing your duty to your house. So Theon might not realize it, or he might just not care. But he is being pretty fucking rude and inconsiderate. And Robb is very direct with returning fire.
And it's not your duty, because it's not your house.
Which is, yeah, very, very mean. But also, I take it more as a, like, don't tell me what to do. Like, fuck off. And he just kind of happened to pick the worst thing. It gives us a glimpse at kind of their power dynamic, too. The idea that Robb's probably not... He's probably not used to being vibe checked by Theon. He's very quick to remind Theon of his place, basically, because he doesn't like what he's hearing. Kind of a bummer, because it adds to Theon's feelings deep down that he'll never be part of the Stark family. You know, to have someone who he sees as, like, his brother, just tell him straight up, yeah, you're not one of us. It's probably doesn't feel great, especially when Robb clearly accepts Jon as like a legitimate brother. Theon's probably very jealous of that, and yeah, he's pretty hurt by this.
Where's Bran?
Don't know. It's not my house.
And this is a pretty cool moment because it seems like Theon probably just fucks off and then goes back to the castle. But later on, he'll show up to save Bran, which I think in a way kind of foreshadows. Not only does it reveal like deep down he really does care about the Starks and he is more concerned about Bran's safety than telling Robb where to stick it. But in my mind, it kind of foreshadows his redemption, how he'll feel cast aside by the Starks, and then he'll come back later in the story to redeem himself and save them. And then finally, after that happens, maybe he can be considered one of them.
All alone in the deep, dark woods. My brother is with me.
I don't see him.
Oh, that's a pretty pin.
This is actually the first time we see wildlings. And we get to see them through Bran's perspective, which is pretty neat because it's a good glimpse at how, like, most of Westeros views the wildlings. They just see them as these savages that come over to Westeros and then rape and pillage people.
What's wrong with you? You some kind of cripple?
I'm Brandon Stark of Winterfell. If you don't let me...
I love how we cut for just a second to Osha's reaction. She immediately recognizes the name. She recognizes how important Bran is.
The boy's worth nothing dead.
Yeah, and when the other wildling recommends killing Bran, she's like, hey, he's valuable. We could get something for him. Don't fucking kill him.
Benjen Stark's own blood.
It's also really cool that they recognize the name Stark because Benjen Stark is an infamous crow.
Think what Mance would give us.
And that, again, I like that it sets up that she's clever. But this is a bit weird for her to say. The idea that they would take Bran all the way back to Mance Rayder to get an award and then, you know, cross the wall all over again to get back here. Maybe not the worst idea, seeing as how desperate they are already on their journey. Be nice to have a little something to get them started. But I think the real reason she says it is to prompt this response from her companion.
Piss on Mance Rayder. We're going as far south as south goes. There ain't no White Walkers down in Dawn.
And that lets us know that the wildlings, at least these ones, are fleeing the White Walkers.
Drop the knife. Let him go and I'll let you live.
Robb bravely steps in to defend his brother. He gives the wildlings a chance to surrender peacefully, and the wildlings figure, well, it's 4-1, so our chances are probably a lot better if we just fight him. Oh, I don't know if I can pause on that. I really like that exchange. There's no holding the sword out and waiting for the other person to hit it. That swing totally looks like it would have fucking taken Robb's head off. But he dodges, he blocks the second one, and now that the axe guy has closed the distance, Robb just runs his sword through his neck. And I'm gonna have to cover it up probably for YouTube safety reasons, but the prosthetic looks very, very good. And we get a tiny bit of Osha, but she goes in for the stealth hit. She takes a crack at Robert's back. I like too that Osha has a stick. It makes sense that if these wildlings don't have enough bladed weapons to go around, they'd probably give her the one without a blade. And this scene kind of shows that was a mistake. If she had had an axe instead of a stick, she would have dug it right into Robb's spine right here. But I like that she goes for the back attack, because I get really annoyed seeing all these like NPCs wait their turns to attack somebody when multiple people are attacking like a good guy. I think it highlights how clever Osha is as a character, that she defies that trope. She runs up and she smacks Robb at a very opportune moment. Okay, sorry, you can actually see it in this shot. It's not quite a stick, but it's an axe with the head missing. But yeah, you can see it right there in her hand, this thing right here. I can't really highlight it without making the screen go dark. So Robb turns on her, he gets the axe away from her, and then he grabs her by the hair, and now she's basically his hostage. Which does not seem to deter this wildling, so he continues to fight while holding on to her. And now we got a good old standoff. And Robb concedes he's not willing to trade Bran's life for Osha's. So you kind of have to wonder what happens now. Because the wildling guy has to know that if he does kill Bran, he's totally fucked. I think realistically, this guy's only shot at escaping with his life is to take Bran with him, to just keep holding him at knife point and to walk out of the woods telling Robb to stay where he is. But that does not happen because this happens. Theon coming in clutch with the save. Which that shot was very risky, as Robb rightly points out. Ironically enough, I think Bran was actually very safe, because the wildlings knew that if they killed Bran, like, it's game over, Robb would just kill them. But Theon rolls up, sees a wildling holding a knife to Bran's throat, and decides, like, well, Bran's probably gonna die here if I don't do something, so why not shoot the guy who's about to kill him? And that's very Game of Thrones. You know, we got two very reasonable but different perspectives on the same issue. And even though both characters, Robb and Theon, make probably the best choice that they can in that moment, there's some pretty notable disagreement. And that difference in perspectives generates some drama, because that's this whole fucking show.
Tough little lad. In the Iron Islands, you're not a man until you've killed your first enemy.
And we get this shot from Robb's perspective, where he just looks around at the three fresh corpses that have been created. And unlike Theon, who's pretty happy to have finally gotten his first kill, Robert is pretty mortified. And I think that adds to his feelings of disgust at Theon. When he says, "Have you lost your mind?" I don't think it's just the fact that he pulled something risky. I think it's also how kind of overjoyed Theon is to be a part of this. Because for Robb, it was like terrifying and necessary, and for Theon, it's like it's a rare opportunity for him to catch some valor.
What have you missed?
He would have killed you and cut Bran's throat.
Don't have the right
to what? To save your brother's life?
And that certainly adds to Theon's feelings of rejection and alienation by the Starks. The fact that he just saved Bran's life, and Robert is already criticizing him for how he did it. Going so far as to say, "You have no right," which you gotta wonder, I don't know what Robb was about to say, but Theon has a pretty reasonable response to that. He's like, "What the fuck you mean I have no right?" And then Robb looks to Osha and asks, "What are we gonna do with her?" And then she begs for her life. Theon is like so ready to kill her. Holy shit. I forgot about that fucking diabolical grin. Holy fuck. Jesus
Give me my
Christ.
life, my lord, and I'm yours.
Rather ironic to be showing a wildling, of all people, bending the knee, as it were, to submit to the will of a High Lord. We got Tyrion in a sky cell. Yay! I like how you can see that the sky cells are basically where the Eyrie meets the mountain below that it's built on top of. This is kind of the foundation of the castle. Which, holy shit, you know your castle's a tall boy if this is the lowest point in the whole thing. But I like how these are the bottom of the castle, and you can kind of see these lines beneath each sky cell, just right in the middle of each one. That it looks like drainage to me. Kind of the like sewage from the castle runs down through the dungeons and then out of the sky cells. That's why there's like these lines of growth and like murky darkness that lead up to them. One thing I don't like is that I don't know why Tyrion's the only one in a sky cell. It'd be really funny if we had like somebody like pacing back and forth in one of the cells, like clearly going crazy. And then maybe in the background you can see him like jump out or something. I don't know. I wish we did a little bit more with just all the cool stuff in the Eyrie. On that note, I mentioned this in the Wolf and the Lion video, but there's like a slight slope to the floors. And I really wish they had kept that in. That would have been really cool. Part of the purpose of the sky cells is that they kind of torture you. And I feel like just the slight slope, having that element where the ground is just tilted outward a little bit, I feel like that small detail adds a lot to the idea of like these cells driving you crazy. Like every time you try to get a bit of sleep, you find yourself like rolling towards the edge.
Maud!
Oh boy. I'll wait. Let's just go.
Turnkey! Maud! Maud! How would you like to be rich?
Tyrion wakes up. He probably realizes that, holy shit, if I stay here too much longer, I could fucking die in my sleep. And he resolves to find a way out. And his solution has always kind of bugged me, but we'll let it play. We'll let it play through until we get to there.
My family is rich. We have...
So Tyrion wants to pay Mord for something. He wants to pay Mord, presumably to help him get out of this situation. Now, Mord's a bit of a... He's got brain damage. Like, literally. He's got, like, a giant fucking scar across his head. He's not all there upstairs. So when Tyrion says, I have gold, I can make you rich, Mord starts to search him, and he's like, you don't have any gold. What are you talking about? Shut up. And then he leaves. So then Tyrion's like, okay, I gotta figure out a different way to explain to Mord that I have money, even though I don't have money on me. All that makes sense so far. Nothing wrong here. I think his little, like, baton thing is kind of funny. It's like literally cushioned. I don't know why he wouldn't just have a stick. I don't know. Life is more elegant in the Eyrie, okay? We're above that. Oh, I totally forgot about this shot. Okay, so this makes it a lot more clear. But you can see there's a trench dug into the middle of the cell where the drainage is allowed to flow. Arya is mourning the death of Jory. She's also pretty scared for her father's life after what she heard in the dungeons and after he was attacked on the streets.
You are troubled.
Yes.
Good. Trouble is the perfect time for training.
So Syrio explains that she's going to have to get used to training when she doesn't feel like it, because plenty of fighting is going to happen when she doesn't feel like it. And when you're in a fight, if you're dwelling on other stuff, then that's only going to distract you from the fight. So he imparts some wisdom, knocks her to the ground.
How can you be quick as a snake or as quiet as a shadow when you are somewhere else? You are fearing for your father. Do you pray to the gods?
The old and the new.
There is only one God, and his name is Death.
We'll come to find out that this is referring to the many-faced god, which is pretty integral to Arya's later story. So it's cool that even here at the start of her story, we're laying those breadcrumbs. And he goes on to say,
And there is only one thing we say to Death. Not today.
And that's kind of the kill shot. That's a pretty empowering thing for Arya to hear. The idea that death is inescapable, but at the same time, there's always something more you can do to try to stop it. You can prolong it. You can tell it, not today, motherfucker. And that motivates her to get back into training, which is pretty cool. The idea that he basically says, without saying it, oh, you're worried about your father dying? Like, if you're worried about anybody dying, like, you might as well learn how to wield a sword. You're not going to be any better off to stop that from happening by not knowing how to use a sword, so you might as well train. Focus up.
She has to eat a whole heart. Hope that wasn't my horse.
She's doing well.
And I like how it's kind of funny him saying, I hope that wasn't my horse, but it's not just a joke. It's Viserys acknowledging that he's lost his status among the Dothraki.
She's going to have a boy.
He won't be a real Targaryen.
Yeah, and all Viserys is worrying about right now is what this means for him. He's finally seeing, maybe not himself for what he is, but he's at least recognizing how other people view him. And here you see some of that denial kick back in, where he kind of immediately has that, oh fuck, like look in his eyes, where he's like, oh, she has a boy, like it's over for me. You know, if Khal Drogo really is interested in going to Westeros and like taking over or helping someone claim the Iron Throne, it's not going to be Viserys, it's going to be his own son. And I think that's Viserys realizing that. And that's why he says like, oh, he won't be a real Targaryen, because that's all Viserys really has. And he's still probably telling himself that Westeros will accept him at the very least, even if the Dothraki won't.
They love her.
What I find interesting about Viserys' reaction there is it's not just like sadness or jealousy. It's like genuine surprise, which is really interesting. The idea that he actually thinks it's so crazy that like all these people could like love Dany. And it makes you wonder if he thinks that about himself and Targaryens in general. But it really tells you just how broken he is, that he's so perplexed by the idea of like a bunch of people loving his sister. And Viserys dips out, because of course he does. That's not only the end of his like ownership and control over Dany. That's the end of his alliance with the Dothraki. At least that's the end of him getting the deal that he wanted, or that he was promised. Dany was the only person he ever actually had control over. And this realization that they've been put in about the same situation, and she has risen to the status of almost a queen, at least by this culture standard, that she's ascended so much so quickly while he's descended. That just spells the end of any delusions he's had about him being superior. Too much for Homie to handle, and also does not bode well for his safety. So I think he makes a smart move initially by trying to grab the eggs and peace out.
They don't belong to you.
Whatever is hers is also mine.
Once, perhaps.
I'm the last hope of a dynasty, Mormont. And no one has ever given me what they gave to her in that tent.
Because at the end of the day, that's why Viserys is broken. It's because he's without love. He lost everything at a young age. He was deeply traumatized. And all his life, he's only been told about all the things that were stolen from him and that he is owed. And all the while, no one ever loved him. Although, I would say Dany could have and would have and definitely tried to love him. It seems like it was his own pride, though, that made him think that treating her like an object would get him what he wanted instead. It's clear from what he's saying, too, that he thinks he deserves it. He thinks he deserves it a lot more than Dany.
How can I carry what I need to carry without it? Who can rule without wealth or fear or love? You don't think I see you looking at my little sister? I don't care. You can have her. And you can dine on whichever parts of her you like. But let me go.
And yeah, it's funny, he talks about not being given any love, and then he immediately goes back to this, like, disgusting, poisonous hatred towards Dany that realistically, if he wanted to be smart, like really smart, he could at least just pretend to like Dany and pretend like, oh, like, I see the error in my ways, I want to be a good brother. And then she could offer him protection, maybe even a chance at power. But he's too obsessed with the fact that she has risen above him in status, and he's so off put by that I think the idea of being protected by her or loved by her just makes him feel small, which is what he keeps trying to avoid.
You can't have the eggs.
You swore an oath to me. Does loyalty mean nothing to you?
It means everything to me.
And yet here you stand.
And yet here I stand.
Yeah, so the words of House Mormont are "here we stand," and I don't think that's any coincidence. So Jorah says loyalty means everything to me, and we know he feels that he betrayed his father and his house. And I think this is supposed to be like his redemption. This is Jorah saying, I'm going to do the right thing this time, and I'm going to do it for my family. And that's why it comes off of the back of him saying loyalty means everything to me. Because this isn't a decision he's making out of loyalty to Viserys. It's a decision he's making out of loyalty to the values of his house, because he's trying to embody them now.
Maud!
Now we're back to this shit. I swear, we're gonna get to the part that bugs me real soon. Just you wait.
About the gold!
Now, gold!
So Tyrion, especially in the show, is a very empathetic person, and so far one of his strengths among just his intellect has been to empathize with people, to put himself in their shoes, to try to understand them. And that's really useful when you're trying to bridge a communication gap. So my problem isn't that the sequence itself doesn't flow. This all makes sense, the fact that Tyrion is trying to explain something to Mord that is not easy to explain to somebody with actual brain damage. So Tyrion has to get a bit more creative and thoughtful with how he conveys this. That's all fine.
Have you ever heard the phrase, rich as a Lannister? Of course you have. You're a smart man.
It is funny between the expressions and the delivery. I also love just the very, you can see the wheels turning in Mord's head.
I am a Lannister. You have also heard the phrase, a Lannister always pays his debts. If you deliver a message from me to Lady Arryn, I will be in your debt.
And that's where I go, wait, hold up. This is so you can deliver a message to Lady Arryn? Isn't the point of the Sky Cell, because Lysa says later the Sky Cells always break them, she is trying to get Tyrion to confess, it seems. So she would want to know when Tyrion has been broken and he wants to confess. So why is all of this shenanigery, why is all of this in service of getting a message from Tyrion to Lysa, and the message is just, I want to confess my crimes now? Isn't that just, can't you just tell Mord that? I'm ready to confess my crimes? Why do you have to pay him? Here, I have to double check, because I don't remember what this was like in the books, but I wonder if this is just, this is something that got lost in translation. Okay, so in the book, this kind of does make sense if you subscribe to a certain theory. But in the books, Mord is like especially mean to Tyrion. Like he goes out of his way to like bully him and torment him and make his time in the cells miserable. And in the book, he gives Mord like the purse of gold he has on him, but he tells him to go to Casterly Rock to get the rest of it. Which that would make a bit more sense if the subtext was Tyrion is a Lannister always pays his debts, good and bad. This could be Tyrion's way of luring Mord to Casterly Rock, where Tyrion could have him like arrested and then thrown in the dungeons, so that he could pay his real debt to Mord for all the mistreatment he suffered. But that makes way more sense than what the show is telling us, which is just that this is actually Tyrion paying Mord to just do his fucking job, I guess.
When I was 12, I milked my eel into a pot of turtle stew. I made the bald man cry into the turtle stew. I once brought a jackass and a honeycomb into a brothel.
Silence! What happened next?
It's a great bit. Some that sucked about later Game of Thrones. Early Game of Thrones actually had some really funny moments, you know, before it turned into fingers in the bum and wanting the bad pussy. So Tyrion has himself a laugh. He has a fake confession where he just tells a bunch of funny stories about all the mischief he's gotten up to throughout his life. Cat and Lysa say, enough of that. We're here about you trying to kill my son. You also tried to kill Jon Arryn.
Take him back to the dungeon, but this time find a smaller cell.
Is this how justice is done in the Vale? I am accused and demand a trial.
So Tyrion demands himself a proper trial. It's established, like, if you're found guilty, you're gonna die. So we got, stakes are being pretty clearly set up. This is all pretty straightforward. And then we show off the moon door. Get to see Sweet Robin clapping and super happy to see it open. Because, you know, he's just a psychotic little whippersnapper. You know, he doesn't know better. It's not his fault. He's Sweet Robin for a reason.
My son will listen to whatever you have to say, and you will hear his judgment.
It's fucking diabolical. I love how he like can't even contain himself. He's like trying not to laugh. He's like, I already know how this is gonna end. Like, this is worse than a rigged jury. This is like if there's just the judge, and the judge has already made up his mind that he wants to kill you because he's really excited to try out the new electric chair. So Tyrion says, fuck that. No way. I didn't ask for a trial just to get killed. He demands a trial by combat.
You have that right.
The honor should be mine.
I'll fight for you, my lady. My honor.
Savardis, you're quiet.
But the imp is half my size. Shameful to slaughter such a man and call it justice.
And Savardis is a super minor character, but even then, we're still taking the time in his like first few moments to establish, because he stopped Catelyn when she got to the Eyrie, and he seemed pretty defensive about Tyrion showing up. So we know he's loyal to Lysa, but we also find out from this that he's probably like the most honorable man in the room, because he's the only one that is reluctant to kill Tyrion in a trial by combat. So yeah, it's neat that we're humanizing him and giving him character traits.
Now I demand a champion.
My lady, I will gladly fight the imp's champion.
I name my brother, Jaime Lannister.
The trial will be today.
I mean, we only really get to hear about Jaime being awesome at sword fighting. We never really get to see that in action. But this is still show, not tell. Even though we don't get to see Jaime fighting, it's not like we're just being told like, oh my god, Jaime is the best fighter ever. Like, Ser Vardis is screwed. It's just, he says, I name my brother Jaime as my champion. And everyone's like, oh shit. And Ser Vardis looks scared, and then he looks really relieved when he realizes that he's not going to have to fight Jaime.
Do I have a volunteer? Anyone?
I think we can assume that no one is willing to...
I'll stand for the dwarf.
And it's Bronn. And I look how he's immediately like, yeah, fuck it. I guess this is what I'm doing. We've had very little time with Bronn so far, but we've already made it very clear that he's very cutthroat. He's a capable fighter. He doesn't appear to be anyone that important or that wealthy, but he's also very opportunistic, and he's looking to earn some money if he can. So this is him making a calculated risk, and I think going like, hey, this is basically the lottery. You know, this guy has said several times he'll pay his debts. He's rich as shit. If I save his life and like get him out of the Eyrie, I could be set for life. And that's kind of exactly what happens.
What was I saying?
Got the infamous hunt that George really doesn't like. I can definitely understand the frustration. The first couple seasons of Thrones were much more limited by budget, but this scene in particular was a very big downgrade, just because you see it in House of the Dragon. You get a proper like royal hunt. The king isn't just going to go walking in the woods with like 3 other dudes holding a spear. It's going to be a much more involved affair. There's going to be there's going to be a whole ass party with him. There's going to be tents. There's going to be horses. But all that aside, this scene does serve its purpose well enough. And on one hand, you can say that Cersei gets really lucky here, because getting him drunk on a hunt, that's not a surefire way to kill him at all. There's more than plenty of chance that he'll be just fine. So I think this is probably Cersei. I don't know. I don't think Cersei expected this to kill Robert, and I don't think she realized the need was that severe yet. I think she's probably just told Lancel, like, every time they go hunting, like, get him drunk. Like, if he's near a boar and no one sees you, like, push him over or something. I think she's probably made very subtle attempts at getting Robert to get hurt or killed without doing anything so overt that if it's prevented that she would get caught. Because I don't think she would trust Lancel to keep quiet if he was found like poisoning the king. But you know, there's nothing to keep quiet about if he's just giving Robert wine during the hunt, as Robert keeps asking for it. And on the other hand, plenty of people think that it's not luck, that it's actually Bloodraven, who is in the show. It's the guy who's in the tree, which we don't really know the extent of his powers. So plenty of people think that the boar killing Robert is Bloodraven warging into the boar. Which again, there's plenty of opportunity for that to be the case. It's just that there's not hard evidence, because we still don't fully understand Bloodraven or what he wants or what he's capable of.
Simpler time? It was. You're too young to remember.
We got Robert, per usual, reminiscing about the good old days while he's on the hunt. I very much get the sense that this is his form of escapism, just going out into the woods and forgetting about everything that exists outside of it. In that light, you could almost justify the fact that this is like a really derpy, small-scale royal hunt, because maybe this is what the kind of hunt that Robert wants. Maybe Robert's just like, no, like, leave the tents, don't fucking follow me, don't bring a bunch of like useless people on the side to watch me kill the boar. I just want to take me, my brother, Barristan Selmy, and, you know, the intern to carry the refreshments. I like that we hear Renly say, "Oh, those were the days," right? I don't know. He says something that clearly Robert has said like 100 times over, and Renly is already sick of hearing it.
Sounds exhilarating. Exhilarating, yes. Not as exhilarating as those balls and masquerades you like to throw.
Renly's already clearly tired of Robert's shit, but he strikes a nerve. We hear Renly in The Wolf and the Lion complain about how his brothers don't respect him, and that Robert thinks he's not a man because he hasn't fought in war. So the comment about masquerades and balls hits kind of a sore spot, and it makes Renly a bit angrier, a bit quicker.
You ever fuck a Riverlands girl?
Robert is completely oblivious to the fact that his brother is gay, even though throughout the show we'll find that like everyone in the country is aware of it.
Those were the days.
Which days exactly? The ones where half of Westeros fought the other half and millions died?
Although Renly is clearly superficially motivated and his status means a lot to him, I think he really does want to progress his country. I think him being gay is a big part of that. The fact that he's been subject to just kind of a daily bit of injustice, the same way like bastards or cripples have been. Which is why he goes on this spiel about like, I'm sick of you boomers always talking about how great things used to be, when every time I look back in history, things like were always terrible. He's not satisfied with the status quo and the way that things have been.
I suppose it was all rather heroic if you were drunk enough and had some poor Riverlands whore to shove your prick inside and make that 8.
Yeah, in the same way Cersei earlier used like a sexist comment to piss off Robert after enduring plenty of sexist comments from him. Renly ends the conversation, he ends his little crash out by giving Robert shit for fucking women, which is kind of an inverse of like all the comments and the rumors and the bullshit he's had to deal with because of his sexuality. And this happens a couple times in the show, but I like that we can see how much something bothers Robert by how quickly he goes to get a drink after it, or by how much he drinks. Because yeah, that's what this hunt is supposed to be. It's supposed to be Robert getting away from feeling like shit and feeling like he's fucking up the country. And Renly kind of ruined that.
Our fields, our granaries, our homes.
These are the survivors of several raids, very violent raids that women were ravaged, children were murdered. It's even worse than that, but it's like, it's comically bad.
They covered our children in pitch and lit them on fire. They didn't steal nothing, they even left something behind.
Fish, the sigil of House Tully.
Isn't that your wife's house, Tully, my Lord Hand?
So Littlefinger is trying to egg Ned on, but I don't know, they did it in a really awkward way. This feels like I'd bet money that a lot of this dialogue coming out of Littlefinger in the next couple sentences, a lot of it is just to make sure that nobody in the audience is missing what's happening. And I don't think it's a terrible move. Rewatching it seems really clumsy and awkward. But I think watching it the first time, because I probably did need a refresher. I probably did need to be reminded that Catelyn's house was House Tully and they're the fish house. And the Riverlands are their territory. Like that, when you're new to this world, like it is understandable that you might miss a couple things. So I understand why they did it. I just wish they had found a more creative way to do it without Littlefinger sounding like an exposition robot. Like this line is just so...
Fish, the sigil of House Tully.
Isn't that your wife's house, Tully, my Lord Hand?
That is... I don't even...
The one who was leading them, taller by a foot than any man I've ever met, saw him take the head off a horse with a single swing of his sword.
That sounds like someone we know.
That does sound like someone we know. Thank you, Peter, for reminding us. Actually, I'm an idiot. I need you to say his name.
The Mountain.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're describing Sir Gregor Clegane.
The man is an anointed knight.
And of course, we have Pycelle speaking up in defense of the Lannisters, as he always will. Pycelle's he's kind of perfect in this scene. He does his best to keep up his facade while also doing his best to defend the interests of Tywin. And this is one of the more forgivable exposits from Peter. This one actually does make sense as a rebuttal. Pycelle says, "Oh, why should the Sir Gregor turn brigand? He's an anointed knight." And then Littlefinger basically says like, yeah, but we all know what he really is. Except he says it with a bit more, just a tiny bit more exposition injected into it.
I've heard him called Tywin Lannister's mad dog. I'm sure you have as well.
Yeah, and we have to mention that he's Tywin's man, because Ned's about to, yeah.
Can you think of any reason the Lannisters might possibly have for being angry with your wife?
Like that straight up seems like an insult. Like I don't know why Peter would say that unless he actually thinks Ned is stupid. Again, I think a line like that is just for the audience. It's like, remember, things are happening because Catelyn captured Tyrion. Because again, obviously Ned doesn't need that reminder.
It would be almost as brazen as attacking the hand of the king in the streets of the capital.
And see, a line like that tells me like, okay, they at least want us to think this is just Littlefinger trying to egg Ned on. There was a lot of clunk on the way there, but we got there. Littlefinger's basically saying, hey, the Lannisters are fucking with you, like, and they're doing it under the protection of the crown. You gonna do anything about it?
Lord Beric Dondarrion.
This was really shocking to me the first time I rewatched it, because I didn't even remember this guy, which makes sense. He shows up for 2 seconds and is given an order. But when you see him again, he's missing an eyeball. And yeah, I totally forgot. I totally forgot that we saw him before. But this is Mr. Resurrection Man. This is Beric Dondarrion, the guy with the flaming sword. I feel like I'm describing this to people who haven't seen the show. You all know who this is, but I'm willing to bet I'm not the only one who is like, oh shit, I didn't realize he showed up that early. He looks so incredibly different. I think it's the same actor. Actually, I don't know. He does look very different. Let's pull up a side by side. Okay, so he was recast. Honestly, not a bad recast. They look similar enough, but also different enough that you could believe this is the same man. He's just been through fucking hell. Definitely didn't help with me not recognizing him though. But yeah, this is actually a really interesting plot element, because basically what happens is Ned orders Beric to assemble a bunch of men, and under the order of the crown, in the name of King Robert, they're sent out to bring the Mountain and his men to justice while they're burning the Riverlands. But then when Robert dies and the Lannisters take over, now all those men who were formerly the King's men become outlaws. And in the books, it's way more interesting. The Brotherhood Without Banners, they kind of go down a darker path as they become more and more desperate. But in the show, you know, as with a lot of cool stuff, they kind of just get forgotten about.
I charge you to bring the king's justice to the false knight Gregor Clegane. I denounce him, I strip him of all ranks and titles, and sentence him to death.
My lord.
This is a pretty gutsy move, and it's only the start, really. But this is kind of Ned playing the game. But you get the feeling that before, Ned might have respected Robert's rule to the point where he would have wanted to wait for Robert to make such an important decision. But now you get the idea that Ned has gotten to a point where he's kind of willing to exploit the power that he has available to him when Robert's not there to stop it. And keep in mind the conversation that Ned had with Robert at the start, when he's like, what about Jaime? Robert's response is, I'm half a kingdom in debt to his father. Ned doesn't plan on Robert coming back and dying. So in his mind, he's thinking Robert's going to get back. He'll probably be like, what the hell have you done, Ned? And then he'll eventually convince Robert, like, I need you to get behind me. Like, we have to hold Tywin accountable. You know, you've granted him too much control and too much power. And you do have to wonder, like, what would happen if he did answer the summons to court? Would he just not answer the summons and like call Ned's bluff basically, and then Robert would be too scared to brand him a traitor? There's a lot of ways it could pan out, but I do think Ned only does this because he does think he can get Robert on the same page. True to form, Pycelle is immediately like, whoa, chill the fuck out. We should wait till Robert gets back. Not just because this is a pretty rash decision, but because it's a big swing at the Lannisters. And he's not supposed to let that happen under his watch.
Inform Tywin Lannister that he has been summoned to court to answer for the crimes of his bannermen.
And this is the real power move. Sending people to bring justice to the Mountain is one thing, but to basically try to take legal action against Tywin for ordering the Mountain to do this, Ned has escalated.
He will arrive within the fortnight or be branded an enemy of the crown.
Littlefinger is very pleased. This is exactly what he wants. Being the agent of chaos he is pretty confident he can position himself to take advantage of whoever wins. And he's kind of right. He does pretty good for himself.
A bold move, my lord, and admirable.
And this next bit, this feels like Peter returning to form. Ned did exactly what he wanted, but to try to obscure that, Littlefinger, I think he pretends to be a bit concerned. Even though he does bring up a valid point, he's not actually worried about whether or not Ned just made a wise decision. This is exactly the kind of choice that he was hoping for.
Gold wins wars, not soldiers.
And how come Robert is king, not Tywin Lannister?
Not really the dunk that Ned probably thinks it is. You can say Robert is king and Tywin's not, and that proves that Peter's wrong. Gold doesn't win wars. But if you're talking about who's actually in control of the kingdom, Tywin is really the most powerful man in the entire country. Doesn't this seem a little unfair that Ser Vardis is like all armored up and he's got a shield and a sword, and Bronn's got nothing? He's just got leather. But the first thing we see is Bronn rejecting the shield. He's offered a shield and he's like, nah. And it's because that's kind of how Bronn fights. He's kind of hacked the knight combat system because he's realized like, oh, armor makes you really fucking slow. It tires you out way faster. And there's plenty of openings in it. So he rejects the shield because it's going to slow him down and tire him out a bit faster, which goes against his whole technique. Fight! I really like that Sweet Robin is the one who commences the fight. You know, this is a big dramatic battle to the death to decide who's right and who's wrong, who is just and who deserves the fires of hell. But you got a fucking, like, 12-year-old who is literally just sucking on his mom's nipple. He's the one starting the fight. He's like, go get him. And it kind of undercuts all the pageantry and reminds you how absurd this is. Because this isn't just at all. Two completely unrelated men have to put their lives on the line to settle this dispute between Highborn. And not only is the Highborn being accused innocent of the crime he's been accused of, but one of the crimes he's been accused of, which is involvement in the death of Jon Arryn's murder, that's something that Lysa is guilty of. So this whole thing is complete and utter bullshit. And I like that Robin being the one to start the fight is all you really need to remember that. He dances around his opponent. He lets them get tired. I mean, just look at that giant fucking shield that Ser Vardis has. Not only is it big, but shields are fucking heavy. They have to be heavy to stop a sword. And the same thing goes for armor. Like, he's wearing so much extra weight. And Bronn hasn't even taken a swing at him, so, like, what good is any of it doing him? His shield is useless, his armor is useless.
And then fight, coward!
I like that Bronn gets called a coward, too, for how he's fighting, which he ignores completely. Game of Thrones loves to cut through all the bullshit about honor and really ask the question of like, what good is your etiquette in combat if it ends up getting you killed? Which is kind of the question that Bronn poses at the very end of the fight. Bronn does a lot to use the environment to his advantage too.
Enough, Ser Vardis! Finish him!
That's Ser Vardis going like, please, could it be over? I just got stabbed. I don't think I can do this. And a less honorable man might have begged. He might have said, please, like, it's over. Like, he's already bested me. I'm not gonna win. I'm gonna die if you don't call this off right now. You know, there's no honor in that. There's no dignity. That'd be humiliating. That'd be something that he probably couldn't live with. So he ends up dying for it. He said earlier, for the love I bore your husband, like, I would gladly fight the Imps champion for you. Like, this guy was loyal to Jon Arryn, and he doesn't even realize that the person who murdered Jon Arryn is now just letting him die. And Bronn looks to Lysa too. He's like, you could stop this. You have the option. And all the people around him are saying, mercy, mercy. But that's on Lysa. You know, it's up to Lysa, or Robin, I guess, to say, all right, like, the outcome is obvious. We can call it a day now. But she ultimately just lets it happen.
You don't fight with honor.
No, he did. This little man is going home. I believe you have something of mine. Lannister always pays his debts.
And aside from the logistics of Tyrion needing to bribe Mord, I do like it. And I do think it's in character for show Tyrion. The same way it's very in character for book Tyrion to try to lure Mord. Because remember, even Mord's different. Mord is way more cruel and abusive, and he goes out of his way to, like, torment Tyrion. And Tyrion, of course, is a bit more villainous, so it all makes sense for in the books it to be Tyrion trying to trick Mord into going to Casterly Rock so he can exact his vengeance on him. But I think in the show we do have a more kind and empathetic Tyrion, and Mord's not like he's really not that cruel. He's just kind of an idiot, and he's a bit violent. You know, even the stick he hits Tyrion with, it's like it's got fucking upholstery on it. It's like soft. It's like softened, much in the same way that show Mord is compared to his book counterpart. So I think it tracks that Tyrion, we kind of just get an endearing moment where he goes to get his gold back from Catelyn just to turn around and give it to Mord because he owes Mord a debt. Because when you hear other characters, like Tywin saying a Lannister always pays their debts, you think of the more vengeful type, you think of the Rains of Castamere. But whenever you hear Tyrion say it, there's like a hint of honor to it. Like Tyrion actually wants to go out of his way to make sure that he does right by the people who he owes. This scene is kind of weird. I don't know. I really don't understand why she's being so rude to her Septa.
You wear your hair like a real southern lady now.
Well, why shouldn't I? We're in the south. Where are you from anyway? The north or the south?
I come from a very small village
wait. I just realised I don't care.
I guess you're supposed to take from it that all Sansa cares about is whether or not Joffrey is cool with her, because her attitude like completely shifts after this.
My prince.
I fear I've behaved monstrously the past few weeks.
This is kind of a weird scene, because I don't know, I can't help but wonder, where's the point where Joffrey said, fuck it, I don't want to hide who I am anymore, I just want to treat Sansa like shit? Because here he makes a very, very big effort to try to, he even like goes so far as to apologize for how he's behaved and saying that he'll never be cruel to her again. Like, acknowledging his behavior is something we just don't really see him ever do ever again. So I think this is just to appease his mother, I guess, but I still don't know. I don't know why he goes so hard for it. It makes it seem like he does want to try to have it makes it seem like he actually wants to try with Sansa for a little bit. But the way that all flies out the window just makes it seem like he never really could have cared that much. I don't know. But what it does make clear is that Sansa has fallen to the dark side.
With your permission.
It's beautiful.
You'll be queen someday. Will you forgive me for my rudeness?
There's nothing to forgive.
You're my lady. One day we'll be married in the throne room. Lords and ladies from all over the Seven Kingdoms will come.
We make mention of her, like, styling her hair differently. We show that all she really cares about, she's so preoccupied with Joffrey's, like, opinion of her. He says, I fear I've behaved monstrously these past few weeks. And as soon as he offers to put a necklace on her, she, like, starts to smile. Like, she's not even angry at him for the wolf incident. She doesn't blame him at all, which goes to show you just kind of how mind-fucked she is, which is supposed to make her eventual enlightenment that much more satisfying. It's just a shame that Sansa kind of got her wings clipped right when she was about to fly in the show. I guess also the music choice is interesting too, because I don't get the sense that you're supposed to be tricked into thinking that Joffrey is being genuine. You're supposed to get the sense that that's how Sansa feels. This is exactly what Sansa wants. She wants to be the queen of the Seven Kingdoms. She wants to be wed to the perfect golden child of Robert Baratheon and Cersei Lannister. Her head is filled with all these fantasies of what noble life is, and even as reality presses in around her, she's just so desperate to try to cling to some semblance of that dream she had. So yeah, you kind of get the idea in that scene that Sansa is almost subconsciously deluding herself. Like she has to know. She has to be a bit smarter than that. Which in the books, that is what you get. You get a lot more of her internal monologue, and you realize that there's more going on under the hood than you might have expected. But unfortunately, the show does not have that. So you're kind of supposed to do a bit of mind reading.
What are you doing?
Going to King's Landing.
In a turnip cart?
So Tyrion spots Ross on her way out of town, and he's like, yo, what the hell is going on? And I like that Ross is pretty clever. She accurately surmises, like, oh, war is inevitable. Like, it's about to go down. All the northern lads are going to be leaving. Business is going to get really slow here, so I'm going to go to King's Landing. And Theon's visibly a little bummed about that, and he tries to hide it, but the scene is so good. He like projects his insecurities. He's subtly trying to convince her not to go. There's a bit where she says, there's nothing left for me here, and we cut to his reaction, and you could tell he's a little hurt by that. And it makes you realize, like, oh, like he did have feelings for her. But how do you express your feelings for a whore when you're someone this full of pride?
There's 1,000 girls like you in King's Landing. Yes, she'll be very popular until some fat lord comes to visit. He can't get it up, so he knocks all your teeth out.
There's nothing left for me here.
I'm sending you both back to Winterfell.
What?
Please, do it now. Why wait? Fucking do it now. Do it yesterday.
I'm supposed to marry Prince Joffrey. I love him, and I'm meant to be his queen and have his babies.
7 hells.
God, season 1 Arya is so much fun.
I'll make you a match with someone who's worthy of you. Gentle and strong.
I don't want someone brave and gentle and strong. I want him.
And that's a funny line. It's funny for her to say, I don't want someone brave and gentle and strong. I want Joffrey. And Arya and Ned immediately pick up on it. But I do think, again, what does Sansa like about Joffrey as a person? Like, nothing. Like, in the books, Sansa, even her descriptions of Joffrey, it's usually about, like, appearance. She's very focused on appearances. Joffrey's, like, attitude or personality or the way he carries himself, like, it's not really that important to her right now. What Sansa wants is, she wants the whole enchilada. She wants to be queen. She wants to be at the center of the like fairy tale that she's always been told. She wants to be the perfect queen. She wants to bear the sons who will go on to be knights and kings and lords. This is something that she's really good at, and she wants to make something of herself while she can. She just still has a very naive idea of how this world works. But again, I don't think it's quite as naive as even Arya or Ned think it is. I think she is aware deep down that Joffrey's a piece of shit, but I think she's that obsessed with the dream. She cares that much about the status upgrade that she's willing to look past it.
And I'll give him sons with beautiful blonde hair.
I like how that's it. Ned's been given a whole lot of clues and information, and this is it makes sense for him to actually kind of put it together here, at least in the context of this universe. Game of Thrones genetics are very not like real life, but they're consistent in a way that you can understand them, like in universe. Like, somebody flamed me for my comments on the Rhaenyra's bastard children in the show, how it was obvious that they were bastards. I should have been more clear. I didn't mean that in the sense that in real life it'd be obvious. But in George's universe, that's how genetics work. The whole deceit is strong and running into multiple bastards with black hair who resemble Robert much more closely than his own supposed children. Jon Arryn's obsession with deceit is strong. The book that confirms that, like, all the Baratheons have black hair. That all follows, at least in universe, even though it doesn't really map onto how our world works.
Stag like his father.
He is not. He's nothing like that old drunk king.
Go on, girls, get your scepter and start packing your things.
Wait!
Come on!
And hell yeah, he's doing it right now. He's getting him out of town immediately. I'm still not quite sure why they aren't. I don't know. I don't know why this doesn't happen, actually. Because they're still getting ready to leave in the next episode. And how much time passes, though? Because Robert gets back. He dies. The coup happens. Is it all really that quick? I don't know. I don't know. I feel like they should be out of town by then, but I guess I can double check when we get to that point. God, I'm in love with this prop. I just think about how much work went into making this fucking book. This giant fucking piece of shit book. Also, it can appear in 2 scenes? Like, look at it. That looks awesome. Maybe I'm wrong, but this does not appear to be printed. They did a good job of keeping the lines straight and the letters the same size. But if you look at like individual like capital A's, like this bottom paragraph in the center with Daenerys Targaryen, all the A's are shaped differently. Like this isn't a font. Like someone actually hand wrote all these fucking pages. Someone hand drew that picture in the corner. Like so much work went into like making the wear on each page. Like Like they had to make a whole page for Umber. It's just so Ned could flip through it for like half a second. That's so fucking cool. Sorry, I'm geeking out a bit too much. That's just my favorite thing ever though. That's why I love like animation so much. It's so fun to watch something when there's just a fuck ton of effort and talent and skill injected into like every frame of it, where you could just rewatch it 100 times and still stumble upon more gold. I love it. Fucking love it.
Lord Oris Baratheon, black of hair. Lord Oris Baratheon, black of hair. Lionel Baratheon, black of hair. Robert Baratheon, black of hair. Joffrey Baratheon, golden head.
And that is a pretty cool reveal. Maybe I'm just dumb, but I was not expecting that the first time around. I was like, oh shit, they're all bastards. They're all probably Jaime and Cersei's. That was a really weird thing to think about, to be like, oh, that's where they came from. Oh my god. You kind of take it for granted now, almost like the twist that like Darth Vader is Luke's father. But at the time I was like, oh fuck, like that's crazy. I knew there was incest happening. I didn't think that all the royal children were bastards. Man, we got the main event. This is what brings it all together. This is what the whole fucking episode is named after. And it's because it's the death of a really fun character. But this is our first big comeuppance. As fun as Viserys is, he's a real piece of work, and he finally gets what's coming to him. It's kind of the pinnacle of Daenerys leaving behind her old life and accepting her new role as Khaleesi.
Khal Drogo! I'm here for the feast!
Khal Drogo says there is a place for you.
Their entire arc with the Dothraki has been about Viserys refusing to adapt, while Daenerys very much takes on so much of Dothraki culture and becomes part of the tribe. Even Khal Drogo, who is still like a terrible reaver and raper, even he has learned a bit of the common tongue, and he's learned enough to tell Viserys off.
That is no place for a king!
You are no king.
I mean, really, even up until this point, they were obligated to hold up their end of the bargain. But the thing is, they have their omens, they have their customs. They're not supposed to go to war just on a whim. And Viserys wasn't supposed to tag along. He did it because he expected them to get right on it, and he wanted to control them, and he wanted to track progress himself and keep a watchful eye on Daenerys. But through doing that, he ends up having all the Dothraki hate him. And certainly, I think at this point, it's all bets are off. Like, he's committed the ultimate disrespect. There's no way, if they do let him live, there's no way that they honor their agreement after this. And this is before he's even threatened Dany and her baby.
Keep away from me!
Viserys, please.
Put the sword down. They'll kill us all.
I'm not quite sure why Jorah says that. Maybe it's just to further encourage Viserys to stop and chill out. I don't know why he wouldn't just say they'll kill you, because he doesn't care if I don't think Viserys cares if they kill Dany and Jorah. And reasonably, they just wouldn't. There's no reason for them to kill Jorah. And there's no reason for Jorah to think they would, so I don't know. Weird line. I don't quite get it.
They can't shed blood in their sacred city.
I like that her handmaid tries to step in to defend her, and Dany pushes her aside with this very callous and steely glaze over her eyes. He's at his most unhinged and unpredictable, and yet she shows absolutely no fear. She's finally grown past him.
But I can.
And that's when it's really it. The only person who could save her at this point is Dany. If she begged for his life, Khal might honor that. But it's over. Once he's threatened her and her child, you can just see all the love evaporate. You can see a bit of shock too, where she realizes oh, this is who you are. This is who you've always been. And this is all she needs, I think, to let him go completely.
Tell him I want what was bargained for, or I'm taking you back. You can keep the baby. I'll cut it out and leave it for him.
He says yes. You shall have a golden crown.
Well, that was all I wanted. What was promised.
And yeah, he just evolves back into a child, basically. He gets all naive and kind of weepy. He's like, oh, well, thank you so much. I'm so grateful now. It's a very violent shift away from threatening his sister at sword point. It makes it seem like he didn't actually expect the call to answer that way. I think he almost was ready to throw his life away just to kill Dany out of spite. I think it was kind of literally that childish well, if I can't have the Dothraki, you can't either. Because he can't be that dumb to where he thinks the Dothraki would let him walk out of there after he's killed Dany. Or maybe his. I don't know. Keep in mind, he is drunk, I guess. He is pretty drunk. I love his little drunk stumble. And that's it right there. That's her saying, yep, this is my new family now. You're nothing. You're fucking gone. You're dead. And that's something else too. Again, we show it with the fact that Drogo has learned a bit of English, but Drogo has actually gained a bit of respect for Dany. He looks to her before making the call, and even though she doesn't even nod, you get the idea that wordlessly she's saying yeah, I kill him. And then Drogo does it.
No! No! I am the dragon! I am the dragon! I want my crown!
Yep, Drogo throws some gold in the instant cooker, and I mean instant. Like, it takes like seconds to melt.
Look away, Khaleesi.
No.
That kind of mirrors how we started this season, how Bran was told not to look away. Kind of showing that Dany has come that far, that she's just sentenced her brother to death, basically, or at least signed off on it, and she's forcing herself to watch, and she does so with a very almost unnerving amount of resolve, but showing that she's acknowledging that she's gonna have to be a part of dispensing justice, and without even having to be taught, she's learned that she shouldn't shy away from it. If she's gonna sentence someone to death, she should have the courage to stand there and watch. Oh, and look, the gold's already done. Very, very fast. Obviously, I get why. It'd be a bit awkward if we had to cut away to wait for the gold to melt.
Dany, tell them. Make them. No, you can't.
Yeah, just everything he says and does just reads like a child. Him like screaming, "I'm the dragon. I want my crown." He says, "Dany, tell them. Make them. You can't. It's kind of Viserys. You know, he's dying the way he lived. Just someone who's permanently stunted, someone who never really grew up.
Dany, please!
A crown for a king.
You got that nice metallic thud, but there's also some pretty obvious symbolism there with the idea that, kind of the same way the Iron Throne has killed kings in the past, the idea that not everyone who reaches for power is able to wield it, and it'll end up getting them killed. And this is Dany kind of being foreshadowed the lesson of, you know, the crown is a burden. It's heavy. It's something that weighs you down, and if you can't handle it, it might end up killing you. So this is a kind of a warning to her, which is why it's important that she doesn't look away.
He was no dragon. Fire cannot kill a dragon.
And that's how we end it. He was no dragon. She spent so much of her life buying into the delusions that Viserys tried to construct about himself, only to realize in the end that he was nothing, that she shouldn't even mourn his death, which foreshadows her capacity to do some pretty fucked up shit in the future, but it also shows just how much she's grown, how much she's been forced to adapt, and how kind of maturely she has accepted the fact that, yeah, if someone's willing to like murder me and my unborn child and sell me into slavery, like, and to like have me be raped by the entire Dothraki tribe, which is, he says that in like their first episode together. I would let his whole tribe fuck you, all the men and their horses, if that's what it took. For her to finally kind of outgrow any childish notions of Viserys being her brother and that connection mattering, here she abandons that. And there's kind of a darker undertone to it, like, like, you kind of just, now the real dragon has been awakened. But yeah, what a way to end the episode. And yeah, I should probably wrap this up real quick. It's probably going to be the longest one I've made. There's just a lot to talk about. I'm really torn on the next few episodes. The last half of season 1 is just so fucking tight. I know 9 and 10 are going to get a Best of Thrones episode, but 7 and 8, I don't know, I could kind of go either way. I need to rewatch both of them back to back, take some notes. I might even just do a breakdown for both of them, and then put out whichever one I think is more breakdown worthy, and then make a Best of Thrones for whichever one is more Best of Thrones worthy. Who knows, I might even put a little community poll out there. But yeah, if you're still here, thank you so much for watching. Sorry this one took a while to get out. It's been a very, very busy month for me. I do want to take a moment to shout out my one and only Patreon supporter, Ellis. He hails all the way from the fabled UK, which is pretty cool. I know not a ton of people have seen my stuff, but it is cool just how far you can reach, you know, a complete stranger on the other side of the planet. But yeah, thank you very much, Ellis, for your generous contribution, and thank you very much for your very kind comment. I appreciated it a lot. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you in the next one.